Thanks for joining us. We're going to undertake a bit of a walkthrough of the Microsoft Intune Suite this morning. I'm Glenn Stonehouse, Head of Sales for Mobile Mentor in Australia. And joining me on this exploration of the Intune Suite for you all is Daniil Mitchin, our Vice President of Technology Security, Kevin Walter, Director of our consultancy, Justin McCabe, one of our modern work and security engineers, and he'll be leading most of the technical discussion. And we have a special guest today, Bright Onyemwe, who is a Microsoft Cloud Endpoint Technical Specialist. And he's here to help with any Microsoft questions you may have. So we want to make sure you get the most out of this session this morning. So we want to be a bit of interactive if we can. So if you have questions along the way, please put them either into the Q&A that appears, I believe, at the bottom of the page, or into the chat, and we'll try to get to those as we go through. Okay, so
perfect.
Daniil, can you take us through what the Intune Suite is, the set of products that it contains, and where the advantages are?
Sure. So Intune Suite is an additional license SKU that provides a set of add-on services on top of Microsoft Intune. The services can be bought as standalone packages, or they can be bought as part of an entire suite where you get access to all the services. So this consists of Endpoint Privilege Management, a service that allows you to manage access to admin privileges for specific applications or tasks on a device. For example, allowing a user just-in-time elevation for a specific application. Enterprise Application Management, which is an application catalog, allows you to automatically update third-party applications that are part of Microsoft's ever-growing catalog. Advanced Analytics, which gives you a bit of additional insight into your device fleet. Remote Help, which is a remote assistance tool, allows you to remote into machines and support end users. Microsoft Tunnel for mobile application management, which allows for Microsoft applications on mobile devices, such as, say, Microsoft Edge, to tunnel into your network and access enterprise applications, such as intranets and so on. Microsoft Cloud PKI, which allows for issuing of certificates, either from established PKI inside Intune, or from a subordinate PKI inside Intune that's signed by your internal CA authority. Firmware over-the-air updates for Android devices. This is integration with Zebra firmware update services to allow you to manage updates of Zebra devices via Intune. And specialized device management, which is management of large Android devices such as wall boards, VR headsets, and so on. So we'll hand over, I guess, back to Glenn and Justin to run through the demo of some of those products.
Excellent. Thanks, Daniil. So thanks for that. So now, as we advertised, we are going to do a deep dive into the Intune Suite, and Justin's going to take us through some of the key features of the product. Again, ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A as we go through if you want to see other things or if something occurs to you. So, Justin, over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much. So let's just jump straight into this. We'll just jump into, as you know, this is your Intune home portal, and what we're going to work on to begin with is the Enterprise Application Management. Now, if you do, or if you're on the front sort of coalface of packaging applications, you know how sometimes it can be quite time consuming or a little bit of a headache here and there depending on the application. So we're just going to jump into that. Cool. So we jump into our Windows application. So we're in the apps portal here. At the moment, it's only Windows apps, and we will just package an application quickly. You'll see how quick it is from what you normally do to what we can do now with Intune Suite. So jump into here to add. There's a new, once you've signed or sort of set up the Intune Suite license, there will be a new option here called Enterprise App Catalog. Click on that. And we will then now select our application. You'll be presented with quite a few applications that are being packaged by Microsoft. And just a heads up, this is growing constantly. From when I first saw it till now, it's grown at least fivefold from what I recall. So we'll just grab a Microsoft application, but as you can see, there's quite a few here. So we'll do Microsoft Power Toys. We're presented now with different types of versions of or packages available. Now, sometimes you might find that there'll be different languages if there's no just multiple languages in an application, but some applications might have different ones, sweet, and there may be different versions as well, depending on your application. So that would be preference of what you would pick as you configure. So we're just going to do Power Toys x64, select that. And as you can see here, it's populated all this information already. We've got the name, description, publisher, app version, etc. And we can either make it a featured app or give it a category. One thing to be mindful of, as you can see here, is that you will have to provide your own logo. It doesn't come standard for this, so you will just have to populate your own logo. We won't do that for now. Going into program, normally you would have to source this information yourself. So the install and uninstall command, that's pre-populated for you, so you don't need to touch it. You can just double check that it looks good and move on to the next. The requirements, that's pre-populated as well. If you want to define your minimum operating system, that's great, or you could just leave it as is. Detection rules always can be annoying sometimes. Some people like to use the registry or the file, but pre-populated, and you can add more or remove as what works for you. Scope tags is pretty standard, and the assignments. Now, this is relatively new. Prior to a couple of weeks ago, you had to wait for the application to provision and become available and then assign, but now we can just assign directly within the setup process. So we will just go ahead and set that up. Now we'll just assign it to our test group, and there we go. That application is packaged, a required application, and from start to finish, that's how long it took to package that application. Some things to be mindful of is that the version of the application is usually n-1. I've seen up to n-2 once or twice, n-3. So, but that is always constantly growing, constantly evolving. So just be mindful that this is a living, breathing setup. So that's as quick as it takes to package an application easy. We'll just jump into the next one, remote help. So remote help is slightly different. We want to start with the application for remote help. You have to package that application, which I have already done. And the key for setting up and using remote help is the person providing the remote help has to have the application, and the person receiving the remote help has to have the application. So that's how that works. So one of the key things to make it work is that you have to set up a role for remote help. So we'll go ahead and I'll create that role. I have already created those roles, but I will run through it quickly to see how quick it takes to create a role for this. So we're going to go create Intune role, give it a name. Demo. Cool. We're presented with a myriad of permissions here. There's 4 that we want that would work for this particular role. I'm going to scroll down here to remote help app. We want to set elevation, view screen, and take full control. Now, I've left unattended control to no, but again, it's a case by case. Do you want to have that functionality or do you not? So in this case, we don't want to have that functionality. There's one more application, one more permission that we need to set, and that is under remote tasks, and that is offer remote assistance. There we go, offer remote assistance. We want to set to yes, and then we will say next, scope tags, review create, and you've created that role. Now, part of the next steps is we have to assign that role to the person that's providing the support and receiving the support. So let's just refresh this. Where are we? There we go. Intune. So we want to assign this. So we're jumping down here to assign. Oh, spell it right. And this is the admin group. These were the ones providing this assistance. So we want to assign that to the admins that would be doing this. And then next we would want to assign the who is receiving the support. So in this case, we'll be going, most people would be everyone, but in this case, we only have a handful. So we would add our person or group receiving the help. I'm just going to add both of them just for this example. But again, case by case, what works for you, you'd have to set up this role. So now we are done. That role is created, assigned, and will apply 10, 15 minutes, depending on the environment, but it will take a little while for it to push down. And now we'll actually show you how Intune Suite remote help works. So we want to jump over into devices here. Actually, I will jump into my test device here. As you can see here, we have, this is the admin, this is the device that will be providing the help. So I'm on this device. It has the remote tool installed already. We will jump into Windows. We'll find our offending device and the aptly named remote help to me. And we will just navigate into it and we will new remote assistance session. Cool. Let's just jump into our device that is receiving the help. And as you can see here, it has prompted a pop-up onto that person's screen. They've gone, hey, I was offering that. Let's just jump back to our other device because it will prompt you on that to launch the remote help on this machine as well. I always wait for that to make that connection, do the doing. And I think it'll be marginally faster given it's a local network. And there, it is connecting. So once that's connected through, you'll have full control and elevation access to that. And you can do, there we go, take full control. It will then prompt on the end user here to say, hey, do you want this person to take full control? Allow. And as you can see here, we've allowed. This is our admin device or our support team device, and it will connect through. And there we go. We are now connected onto that user's device. We have full control over it, and it's as simple as that. Package the application, define the roles, assign the roles, who's providing support, who's receiving the support, and then via devices offer new remote assistance. There we go. That is the step-by-step process of using the remote assistance and the remote help tool via Intune Suite. Next. So elevated privilege management is a tool which there's two parts of this particular tool. There's the settings rule and the elevation policy, elevation rules setting. So we have two of those. So we have rules and settings. And settings, I like to look at it as the settings applies to everything. The rules applies to one application. So for example, if we want to allow the user to either install an application or elevate an application on that, we could set up a rules
Justin,
policy.
I hate to interrupt you, but you've got a black screen, mate.
Oh dear, sorry. Sorry, my bad. I will jump back to where to start off again. So we will come down here to endpoint security. My apologies to everyone. Jump into endpoint privilege management. Come to policies, and as I was saying, we have rules and we have settings. Rules applies to a single application. Settings applies to the entire either user profile or device. I'll run you through now setting up the settings episode. So we'll go create policy, settings, and we will give it a name. And we're presented with a couple of options here. So obviously we would want to use set to enabled, and we have a couple of options with deny all requests, require user confirmation, require support approval, not configured. Now, we're just going to look at the two in the middle there, require support approval and require user confirmation. Require support approval is you would run through that process of elevating that application, and it goes off to Intune, prompts at Intune, and a admin or the person providing support would then either approve or deny that elevation. The limitation there is that the expectation that someone is monitoring or that there is someone at the end of the tunnel waiting for that to come through. In this case, we'll just require user confirmation, and there's two parts to this. We can provide a business justification and a Windows authentication. I like to do both. Business justification, when you enable it, the user would have 280 characters to provide a justification as to why they are elevating this. And then Windows authentication will prompt them to enter their username and password. So in this case, we will just select both because you can't have enough information. Preview automatically detect elevations. Yep. And send elevation data for reporting. Absolutely, that's vital for this, and we want to collect everything. So next, we would then want to assign it as we normally would, and we would just set that to our group and or devices, depending on what you require. So do you require for a user to have this, or is it just the device? So we'll say the admin on this user here has access to be able to do that, and away you go. Now that person, when they sign onto the device, can elevate any application, and every time it's elevated, it will there will be a report published in here. So we'll have a look at that shortly. The next is the rules setting. So elevation rules is slightly more complicated, and it's a bit of a rabbit hole that you can go down. Sure. So hold on one second. So as you can see here, we have the rules name, the description, elevation type. So we're just going to give it, we're going to use Notepad++ as our example. And we, okay, so we would, as normal, we want a elevation type to be user confirmed, and we have the two validations, business justification and Windows authentication. I like to use both. Can't have enough information, and then we provide so then we pick the child behavior, again, case by case, require rule to elevate, sweet. Give it the file name. So in this place, it is ++.exe, and our file path is as follows. We're just going to pull it off the device that we'll be using. Perfect. Now, there's a couple of ways to continue. The best way is, according to Microsoft, is the more lockdown way is to use a device hash, or you can use a certificate, whatever is good for you. And there would be a case by case. In this one, we're just going to set that to non-configured so we can use that device hash. It's an SHA-256 hash that you have to put in there. So that could be the installer or the application, the hash from the exe. In this case, we're going to grab that. I have that already. You can define your minimum version, and you can give it the relevant information, and then you set that up so that you can add more depending on, you could add multiple different version applications, multiple settings, multiple ways of authenticating different applications. Probably spell the name right would be great. And then you would assign that particular one. Again, as we normally would, you would assign it to who can do that. We'll assign it to a user as always. And now you've defined that. So that user can elevate that application. And if you didn't have a settings policy in place and you only had the rules policy, they could just do that application and not the rest of the applications. So now I'll just run through what that actually looks like. So when you jump onto your machine and you've applied that policy, You can see here we have a couple of applications, and now this device is receiving the settings and the rules policy. So if we, for example, right-click on this application, we are presented with a new option here called Run with Elevated Access. We click on that, needed for demo. And this comes through, it does, and we could then authenticate. And if I spell my password correctly, it will put this application and raise it in a elevated status. So basically, like you have admin control over full admin on this application. So now the key with this is this elevation only applies during that session. So if I close this now, I don't have elevated access, and I open that application again, they will not have that elevated permission, and they would have to go through that process again. Sweet. Any questions around endpoint privilege management? It is a curly one, and you can go quite far down that rabbit hole in terms of either certificates or other tools. So really, it's you want to play with it and use it to figure out how it works for you. So any questions around that one? I know I have quite a few. No, okay, sweet. We'll jump into the next one. Tunnel for MAM. So Tunnel for MAM is a tool that on iOS and Android devices. Android application, we want to add a app configuration policy. I have one already, but we'll run through it again. A managed application. We'll give it a name. And this we're going to apply this to Edge. So we're going to leave it as so. We're going to select Microsoft Edge for Android. Perfect. And in this case, we will be applying a number of variables to this that are as follows. Just give me a second. I just closed that. I will grab those from another one. My apologies. Apps, Android, apps, configuration, tunnel. Oh my goodness. My apologies, everyone. I've for MAM. So what you will do is you will set the following. You will say strict tunnel mode is true, Intune MAM only equals true. You would leave the rest or configure as required, but this is what you're setting. And that is your endpoint configuration. Now you want to put your application protection policy, and we would run through that shortly. And that is as follows. So this is quite a simple one. There's actually just a single option that you need to enable, and I'll run through it now. It is just the start tunnel connection on app launch. So we'll just create that now. Give it the same name, and data protection. And if you scroll all the way down at the bottom, start tunnel, Microsoft Tunnel connection on app launch. Now that's it. We would go through the process, and if any other additional information is required or settings required, that's a personal choice. But realistically, if you want to enable that tunnel for MAM, it is enabling there, and you would set up your additional permissions or requirements, assign that application, and it is now set up. App configuration policy, my apologies, and app protection policies to enable it, and that is that. We will now run through the last section, which is advanced analytics. Now, advanced analytics the problem with advanced analytics at the present is that it really requires it to be applied to devices that are in use and in a real world environment. And once you've set up and using advanced analytics, or you've accepted that Microsoft Intune license and you've set up your configuration, it'll be set up and ready to go. And it'll be set up and ready to go, and it'll start to generate information like this in terms of what it looks like, in terms of how the user battery health looks, any anomalies on the device. And I'll run through just some of the standard processes of setting that up. Sorry, there we go. Oh, my apologies. And we'll run through of setting that up. So we want to jump into reports. Come down here to Endpoint Analytics. And the key with setting up Endpoint Analytics is that you want to make sure that you have a Intune data collection policy enabled already. If you don't, you'd want to go through that process of setting that up, defining it, and deploying it to your devices. In this case, we already have that set up, and it is pushing out to those devices. Now, you'll know that it's collecting information once you start to see battery health and information in here to start to populate. I'm going to actually hand this over to Bright to sort of delve deeper into this, because he's got more of a living world model, and we've been working on VMs. So Bright, would you be happy to jump in here?
Yeah, Justin. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen over here. And Justin, great intro to advanced endpoint analytics. You kind of got it there, right? You know, when it comes to analytics, it requires quite a bit in order for you to actually get it running in your environment, right? 28 days, right, is the minimum for you to actually have the proper aggregated data, and also making sure that you have 10 or more devices. That's where you can actually get good, rich telemetry coming back from your machines, so that you can actually find out, oh, okay, these are the anomalies for the machines. Where can we start to remediate? So we're taking a look at an environment, and just to kind of give you guys a heads up, this is a click-through demo, okay? It does require a lot to have a working production environment, but this is a click-through demo that does demonstrate how advanced endpoint analytics actually works. 3 things that I would recommend that you keep in mind, because I know that a lot of you guys are familiar with endpoint analytics. You've probably seen this before, seeing your start performance, the work from anywhere baseline scores. The 3 things to keep in mind that advanced endpoint analytics has over the regular version of endpoint analytics is the anomaly detection, the device scopes, and the advanced timeline. So we'll take a look at all 3 of those here in a second, right? So let me go ahead and click through this. I'll navigate and narrate at the same time as we go through this whole entire process. Give me just a second. Let me just make sure that my demo doesn't fail on me. All right. Okay, so what we're taking a look at right now is where Justin last left off, right? We went into reports, and then we dropped down into endpoint analytics. The first thing that we see is this score, right? We see our endpoint analytics score. In this section, we can take a look and see that we've got, in this tenant, we've got a score of 82 over 50. 50 is the baseline. This is the baseline number that's aggregated for all commercial tenants, right? Now, that doesn't mean that all that data is being shared amongst other tenants. This is just information that's kept privately in Microsoft. But if you're in a good, healthy state, you should be above that baseline of 50. So we're taking a look here. This is a very healthy tenant. Although we can start to see some insights and recommendations on the right-hand side, which I'll get into. But if we take a look at that number, we're in a good place, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and click through here. On the right-hand side, right, you're going to see insights and recommendations, okay? So what this basically entails are insights for issues that may be occurring within your environment. Maybe you're starting to see some slowness when it comes to certain deployments. In this case, we're seeing that autopilot, there are some devices that aren't registered for autopilot. So within endpoint analytics in the advanced version, it's telling us, hey, look, you've got some devices that need to be registered within your environment. We're recognizing that 10 devices aren't registered. So this is the remediation, or should I say, this is the next step towards your remediation that you would have to take in order to resolve that issue. And we can see that here in this top portion. On the bottom, we can see here that we've got some devices that are not enrolled through hybrid join in Entra ID. So also, once again, it's telling us here, hey, look, if you want to increase your baseline score, consider enrolling those devices into a hybrid environment. Now, you can click through these and it'll give you extra information and extra data. Just keep this as a reminder. This is a click-through demo. So if I do click in through each and every one of these, there is the potential that I may not be able to return back to our main screen here, but we will be able to dive into this a little bit later through the demo. So let me go ahead and push on through. If you guys take a look at the top, we've got our overview, we've got anomalies, model scores, device scores. Let's go ahead and jump into anomalies and just take a look and see what the bread and butter of endpoint analytics is. So in here, we are able to take a look at an anomaly, right? We're able to see all the bad actors and the issues that are occurring within our environment. You can see here, looks like Chrome, all right, looks like our Chrome browser has been experiencing quite a number of crashes within the last couple of days. So maybe this might be worth actually investigating, right? Since we're seeing that this is a highly critical issue. So let me go ahead and click next here. And in here, it looks like what we're doing here is filtering out the anomalies so that we can see just the highest severe anomalies in our environment. So just click on through here. We can see that we're selecting high. Now we've kind of filtered this out so that we can focus just on the main tasks that are the highest priority. So we'll go ahead and click into Chrome and see what's going on here. Keeping my fingers crossed that my demo doesn't fail here. All right, so we're taking a look and we can see here a little bit more information of what's going on in Chrome. So number one, we know that Chrome has been causing some crashes. It's been hanging on several devices within the last 48 hours. Let's go ahead and click next here so we can gather some more information. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the affected devices, okay? So we'll go ahead and click next here and we can see what devices are actually experiencing this issue. So let's go ahead and just pick on one of these real quick. And we can see here, we've got a nice little timeline that we're working with. So this is our 12-hour timeline for when these anomalies occurred on this machine. So digging in deep here, we can see that, hey, look, just within the last couple of days, we see that Chrome has been crashing quite a bit on this machine here, right? Giving us the true details of what's happening on this machine. And of course, within this view, we can also dig in a little bit more and get a granular, I guess you could say kind of a granular, more visible timeline, right? Let's take a look at this within a 24-hour time frame, right? We just want to look at the very last day of what happened with this device and why Chrome is actually causing this issue. So we can see here, we've got this filtered out. Now we can actually see when exactly our end user had that experience. So we can actually correlate this to a better troubleshooting experience with our end user, right? So we can get on that remote help solution and actually troubleshoot with them saying, hey, look, did you experience this issue around 10 p.m. last night? Okay, maybe we can do a deep dive into what is causing this issue, okay? All right, so that is anomalies, all right? Now let's go ahead and take a look at another functionality. Like I said, remember there are three main functionalities that we have here in Endpoint Analytics, which is anomalies, right? Device scopes is another, and the last one is the timeline, which we just did take a look at right now. All right, so device scopes. This one is really important because now if you take a look here, we have the ability to actually filter these out by a scope. Now, it's a little bit different than your typical scope tags that you normally work with. This allows us to take a look at different regions, different departments, so that we can actually see what our baseline scores are, right? So for instance, if I click next here, we can take a look and see what our drop-down menu gives us as far as what scopes we are able to work with. So we've got the human resources department, the IT department. We can take a look at the base scores for our EU devices or our Asia Pacific devices, right? In this case, let's take a look at the Sales Canada team, right? We want to see what's going on with their devices, if there's anything that we need to troubleshoot with the Sales Canada team. So we'll go ahead and click next here. And on this drop-down menu, we'll go ahead and apply for the Sales Canada team so we can actually take a look at that aggregated data. So in here, you can see that that score dropped from 82 down to 64, right? We can see that the insights and recommendations here, quite different. We're not seeing insights regarding autopilot. We can see that it looks like the sales team is having an issue with legacy applications, or should I say maybe legacy devices, actually. So it says right here, 14% of our devices are running older versions of Windows, right? So maybe this might be an opportunity for us to leverage a feature like auto patch or hot patching, or maybe just Windows Update for Business so that we can improve our score, right? And then, of course, we're seeing down here at the very bottom, there are some significant delays when it comes to the startup. Okay, so like I said, in here, you can drill down and get a more granular view as far as what's going on. Maybe there's an application that's booting with startup that's causing our devices to have a slow startup speed, but this is where you can actually do all of that investigation. Okay. All right, I think that is the tail end of endpoint analytics. Maybe we can play around here a little bit before I toss it back into Justin. Let's see what happens when you do actually click on some of these insights and recommendations. So we've got a few apps here, poor reliability. So like I said, this is a demo environment, a click-through environment. So let's go ahead and click. Let's see what happens here. Maybe you can give us some more visibility as far as what's going on. So typically when you do click on those insights and recommendations, here you can see the list of applications that are running. We can see the details when it comes to that application reliability. Each one of these has a score. And of course, the higher the score, then the better, right? The lower the score, then you may want to start targeting that application and seeing what the issue is, right? And we can see here the number of crashes that have happened on that device, right? Or should I say with that application. And if we want to dig in more, let's just say we want to take a look at that application. Here we can see what version is running, right? But in a nutshell, that's typically it when it comes to endpoint analytics. Just to recap there, we're taking a look at anomaly detections. We're looking at the device timeline. Like Justin mentioned earlier, you can also take a look at the battery health, which is in addition to the premium version. And of course, device scopes. We're able to actually segregate this so that we can take a look at different departments and different geographical locations. Okay. All right. And that pretty much, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to anomaly detection. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and I will toss this back over to you, Justin.
Thank you, Brian. I think Glenn will step in over here.
Yep. Thanks for that, Brian. Excellent. Thank you very much for your support. Daniil, did you want to touch on Cloud PKI quickly?
Sure, yep. Just a sec. I'll just share my screen. So Intune Suite has one of the features is Cloud PKI, which is an ability to easily stand up a Microsoft managed two-tier PKI inside Intune and issue device or user certificates to enrolled devices. Usually it's managing PKI solutions requires some specialist skills, which makes this whole process significantly simpler and requires less overhead. So we have two options. We can either have a root created directly inside Intune, or we could actually have issuing authority created, which is signed by a on-premise root authority. So then all the certificates issued by Intune can still be trusted within your enterprise. Setting up a root and issuing authority is very straightforward inside Intune. So just a matter of creating a new authority. Example, just root. Selecting the type, so root or issuing. If we select a root, its validity, what key usages should be allowed to be issued by this route. And then it's just some details around the CA itself. If we are creating a issuing CA, we can either select an existing route that we have created inside Intune, or we can use a route CA from another infrastructure, say your on-premise ADCS, to be able to create an issuing CA that will issue certificates to devices. So once an authority is set up, for example, in this scenario, there's a two-tier Intune authority, a root, and issuing. Once an issuing authority has been created, it will have a SEP URL, which can then be used in a SEP profile inside Intune that will be deployed to devices so certificates can be issued. So for example, this is how a profile would look like, where it's just a standard SEP profile with some details for subject name and potentially some attributes and the SEP server URL. This will then result in the certificate being deployed on the device. So in this case, I'm deploying a device certificate. So it will be in a computer store. And here we can see a certificate for this computer name issued by Labs issuing CA1, which is the this issuing certificate authority. And as the certificate has been deployed, an example on this machine, I'm using a machine certificate to establish a VPN connection. So use a machine certificate to then connect the VPN and be able to access internal resources. So once the cert is leveraged to connect to an Azure VPN, and now that that connection is established, I can actually easily connect to the domain. So issuing a cert, I guess a real life example is using it in a VPN profile for, say, always on VPN and connecting to domain resources without having to spend a lot of effort setting up certificate connectors, certificate authority, and so on. That's really the Cloud PKI in a nutshell. I'll hand over back to you, Glenn.
Thanks for that, Daniel. Excellent. And thank you to Justin and Brad as well. Kevin, we've seen what the features and settings and things are for Intune Suite. Would you like to explain to us how that fits into a total security posture?
Sure. Thanks, Glenn. I mean, we saw as we wrap this up, we really want to emphasize how that diverse array of security features offers a unique value for your organization's data and devices. So even as Intune's baseline endpoint management capabilities strengthen security through advanced threat protection, compliance policies, and conditional access, by incorporating these new features for remote support and privilege escalation, et cetera, they also align with a broader trend towards vendor and cost consolidation. So by integrating all these functions into a single platform, organizations can simplify their IT infrastructure, reduce cost, and ensure a cohesive, streamlined approach to endpoint security management, while also incorporating that balance of security and user productivity with deeper analytics. Because even if you have the greatest tools, if your users have a poor computing experience, IT is still the bad guy. So thank you for joining us today, Glenn. Back to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so if there's any questions for anybody, now would be a time to throw them into the chat, but I'll give you a couple of seconds for that. If there's anything that we've missed or something else you want clarity on. But otherwise, how do you take advantage of the tech? We're going to drop a link into the chat for you to register for some more information. It just makes it a bit easier for you. And a Mobile Mentor team member will reach out and set up a time for a discussion. At the point of that discussion at that time, we'll also introduce you to our capacity and capability assessment. This is a mobile mentor service that we offer to our customers that it allows us to learn about your technology environment, your goals, your priorities, your deadlines, resources, and any constraints that you have. Once we have all that information, we have that understanding, we'll help you build a roadmap on how to actually select to extract the maximum value from your Microsoft licenses. Okay. I've dropped a link in the chat to that description of that service if you would like to have a look at that as well. Okay, but if there aren't any questions, I want to thank you all for your attendance today. I want to reach out for more information. Special thanks to Kevin and Daniil and Bright and Justin. Excellent job. Really appreciate your time here, guys. Thank you to everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Cheers.